in what is going on, Kenty, at Manly? Do we have any breaking news? Can you give us any insight as to, as you can see here, the destruction that is happening in Manly at the moment?
Yeah, look, it's a really festering situation at Manly at the moment, and there's all sorts of allegations going around. Look, and the big one at the moment is obviously that there's a war between Des Hasler, the head coach, and the Fulton family. Scott and Christy Fulton are both involved at the club. Brett's running the pathways. I spoke to Brett Fulton today. He spoke to Des yesterday when this story first started to break and said, look, Des, we're not part of this. We've got no issue with you as the coach and what's been happening at the club, and where this has come from, they don't know. That said, I believe that there is a move at the club, and I don't believe it's the Fultons. I believe it's others using Fultons as the to put in front of everybody as a bit of a decoy to get rid of Des Hasler. I've got no doubt the club's slowly shifting on him.
So what's happened with Des and Penn? Is it true that Desi locked him out?
That was on the game the other night. Des locked him out of the dressing room.
So Des wouldn't let the owner in.
Look, that's pretty standard fare for Des. Des likes a pretty tight dressing room, and as you know, at the big stadiums, there's multiple rooms inside the dressing room. But Scott Penn's the owner of the club.
That's a lightning rod for inviting conflict.
It is.
That's huge.
But look, and this has got this. Des has done this before. He did it at Canterbury, and it began the rot at Canterbury. It began basically the snowball of club officials slowly turning on Des, this type of attitude. And I think it's begun at Manly. I really think Des is going to be fighting to save his job even into next season.
The history with Des and Scott Penn dates back to when Des opted to go to Canterbury the first time around. Yep. They had a massive fallout. After that, obviously,
said he's never welcome back at the club
for many years. But then you've only got to go far back as a couple of months during the whole Pride fiasco, and Scott Penn went on the record and said Des will be the coach here for as long as he wants to be. Well, that changed on the weekend. Yeah. So guys, he's got to pick a position and stick to it.
There's a meeting, I called a crisis meeting on Thursday. It's Tony Mestrop, their new CEO, Scott Penn, their owner and chairman, Des Hasler, and his manager, George Mimas. They'll get in a room and they'll try and thrash this out. What they will tell Des is, you are no longer managing director, chief executive, head of this football club. We want to give control to Tony Mestrop, the new CEO, for him to run it. And so Des got to change his ways. He's got to take their suggestions on board. He's got to change his high performance staff. And
will he do that?
Will he do that?
Will Des do that?
Reluctantly, if he does, because Des is of all the coaches in the NRL, I've always found Des is the one that's wanted most control over the club. To the point where part of the fallout at Canterbury was when he instructed the players he didn't want to talk them to the hierarchy at the club because he just wanted everything kept in-house. He wanted them to the secret business, so to speak. And he's always operated that way. He's always been allowed to operate that way. But times are changing, and the club is certainly unhappy about certain things at the moment that's happening there. And I really believe that Des is in the gun sights, and we know that
he's not going to walk though, can't he?
He won't walk. No,
he's on around 800 or 900,000, and this is where the problem is. If they want to make a change, they paid Trent Barrett out for a year, 3 or 4 years ago, while Hasler was coaching. Scott Penn swore at that time he will never ever pay out another NRL coach. We'll never do it again. So they've got to find a solution.
What if there's no resolution on Thursday? What if that doesn't resolve anything? What if Des refuses to change his ways?
I don't think Des will refuse to change his ways. He's only got the 1 year contract. Des wants a longer term deal at Manly, and that's half of what they've been bluing about. So if Des wants to move forward, he's just got to coach that football side and stop it.
Is it true that the players have been surveyed?
Yeah, it has. And Brent Reid has written a story about this on the Telegraph, now back page tomorrow. So what happens at the end of a football season, there it is there, the back page. At the end of each football season, the coach and the football department do exit interviews with the players, not just those leaving, but a review of everyone's season. They threw a survey into this one today with a question, no names on, it's anonymous. Do you support Des Hasler as head coach?
Gee, that's
And you know what?
Also asked about coaching staff.
And also us. But you know what?
that's fascinating.
And this shows the disrespect currently at the football club for management. No one told Tony Mestroff they were even doing this survey.
That's a big
It's
thing.
also disrespectful.
Who
to
did
Des.
the survey, Buzz?
Sorry?
It's also disrespectful to Des.
Well, I presume Des was behind it,
it's
Kenty.
got you really think so?
Well, I
Or
think Des.
would be
I
used as
think,
ammunition to
I
try
think
and get rid of Des.
was that confident he had their support. He wanted the results to take to this meeting on Thursday.
If you make it a popularity contest between Scott Penn and Des Hasler, we all know who's going to win that.
Of course.
Scott Penn will lose hands down every day of the week, but you think Des actually played a role in getting
Well, it was
this?
a football department survey. Des runs the football department.
Okay.
Yeah, look, I just think there's really amateur politics being played here.
But Manly's always been mired in politics. It feels like this is Groundhog Day. How many times they won a couple of comps? The last two
Manly
times
have
that
always
they won
been very good
premierships.
at politics. They've always been one of the best clubs at politics. And that's why I think they've been so successful for so long, because they've been able to operate that way. They've always been very clever, Manly. This recent examples that we're seeing is real amateur stuff, and it's going to end up in
It
tears.
sounds toxic. Like, you know, just from a ex-player's point of view, trying to think and put myself in that position when you're getting asked those questions in a survey about your coach.
Well,
that's
you know what,
crazy.
Braith, you can see the agenda behind it. You can see the agenda behind it, and there's talk of factions in the players at the moment.
Yeah, but that's right. We're talking about Des, but we're avoiding the biggest question about a fractured football club. Completely fractured. Where they had their Mad Monday on Sunday after the Canterbury loss. They were all supposed to turn up at Brookvale over for a beer and a drink and to get together. Half didn't show up. Half of them did not show up.
Half didn't turn up.
I don't know. They won't give me names. I know Cherry-Evans did turn up.
Okay, the problem to me just sounds far bigger than Des.
It is.
To me, it's far bigger than Des, and I don't think if you sack Des, that's necessarily the solution right now. I mean, even if you were to go down that path, who do you bring in? Anyway,
It goes back to the Pride jersey too. That split the club. They haven't recovered from that.
Yeah.
The fact is, and my understanding is that players, certainly the club did know, despite the protests at the time that nobody knew. The club did know that they were going to wear the jersey. People had been consulted about it. They were warned that there might be an issue. They went ahead with it anyway. It is a club that is just, it is not the Manly we remember.
The player who I really feel for in all of this is Kieran Foran. He played his last game for Manly Friday night against the Bulldogs. He has bled for that club. Braith, you know, like playmakers. Not many players dig into the line the way that Kieran Foran does at his age and at this stage of his career, but he just repeatedly does it. But I feel as though, you know, the club's clearly had a strategic direction and vision, which they decided to embark on a couple of years ago. They went down the road of bringing the buses in from Blacktown, and all of a sudden the club did start to take a different shape, have a different balance in amongst the squad. And a big part of that also has been Josh Schuster and the way that he's been used this year.
He's not fit, Jimmy. He's not fit.
Yeah, hang on.
He's been used properly.
We're constantly
Why
hearing
isn't he fit,
rumblings
though?
that he's unhappy.
How
can he be used properly if you're not fit?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He hasn't been used, so he hasn't been a waste. So I think he's got to accept a bit of responsibility
Of
himself.
course. Get fit.
You know,
That's what
and
you're
their
there
high
for.
performance boss, Don Cinch.
That's embarrassing. You know, like no matter what age you are, how many games you've played, you're playing first grade, you're fit. And if you're unfit, you get fit. That's just standard procedure. Yeah. What about DC? You wrote about him today, Buzz. Has he lost the playing group?
Well, I wrote this morning, I tried to describe it best as he is an aloof sort of character. So when there are problems like the Pride jersey or tactics or form or Des, they want to discuss it, he's not as approachable as someone like Jake Turbo. And this is why there is a push at Manly for Jake to take over. I don't think it's any secret that he has had relationship problems, Daly Cherry-Evans, with a lot of the football side. I don't know if it's about his salary on 1.2, which he probably hasn't justified for a long time, but when he signed that, it meant Foran had to go. But there's also that story that broke today. The entire Manly squad, during COVID, were in a bubble on the Sunshine Coast, staying in a hotel. Now, somehow, he got permission with his wife and kids to leave the hotel for the entire time and set up in his own private house. I don't think that went down well with the players either, and I don't think it's right for anyone to be given that sort of break, Kenny.
How are you actually staying inside the bubble when you're doing that?
I don't know.
How does the NRL allow that to happen? That supposedly they're all in quarantine in hotels inside the bubble under the Project Apollo protocols, and he's allowed to go and live in suburbia in a
Well, I
house.
presume he had to stay inside in lockdown.
It does look like he's been given special.
He had to stay
Yeah.
inside.
Well,
You know,
no, well, it was
Everyone
like
was
He
inside.
wasn't going to Cavill Avenue.
No, well,
Melbourne.
Sunshine Coast for a start.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, mate,
What's
you're
that
a little bit out of whack.
Well, I was just thinking about the Gold Coast.
I just think, look, Cherry, look, he does dance to a different drummer, and I just think at some point he's just going to have to get a little bit of dirt on his hands with his teammates and just say, guys, I'm in it with you. Even though they live different lifestyles, different pay grades, he's just got to get involved with them.
There's always been noise around DC. Does he cop a bit of a bit harsh?
I think it's self-inflicted, Brace.
Oh, I think it's a bit harsh, can't he? He's a very good captain, mate. He captained Queensland to win that impossible Origin series. with Wayne.
The question's not his football ability, Buzz.
Yeah.
Didn't you write today that Jake should take his job?
Yeah,
though?
I did. Yeah, but I'm not saying Cherry-Evans isn't a good cap. What are you laughing at?
Well, you've written that Jake should
I'm just trying to figure
usurp him and steamroll him, and he's no longer captain of the club. But there you're flipping and flopping.
Let me talk, Ken, please. Thank
He's
you.
calling you James, so he means he's not happy.
means
He's
he's
angry.
serious.
Now, under these circumstances, leadership changes are required at Manly, and I include the captaincy in that. And captaining an Origin side for 3 weeks is different to captaining a premiership side for 22 weeks or 25.
Think about
wasn't
Cherry.
talking about that.
Cherry's a captain, but I don't know if he's the leader, whereas I think Jake's the leader.
Well, you look at this vision here. Look
That's
at
the
the
big
way
difference.
Jake is dictating terms in the sheds, and you see the
Jake
way
can
that
say what he
Jake
likes,
bleeds
and I'll
after
go
a
with
loss.
him.
Oh, if I'm Manly, it's Jake and Tommy who I'm just getting into a room. They are the Manly Seagulls. They're the heart and soul. They're who you build.
Maybe not
a
for
club
long break.
around.
They might be Dolphins.
Well, this is
soon.
what I'm about to get to. So, but I'd honestly, you'd listen to every word they say, because not only are they great role models off the field and have a great attitude, but they transform that attitude onto the field, and they do. They get followed. But are they going to be there? Are they going to be there? The Dolphins are circling and after the Turbos.
Rival clubs don't muck around, and they read all the headlines over the course of the weekend, Braith, and of course it's only natural the Dolphins are still building a roster, so they've picked the phone up today and made the inquiry about the Turbo Brothers. Who wouldn't want to sign the Turbo Brothers if
Surely
they're
they're not
available?
leaving
Hang on, last week it was Latrell. The week before it was Munster.
Well, Buzz, that
Well,
doesn't mean
they're
it's not
trying
true.
to build
They
a
still haven't
squad,
signed it.
Phil.
Buzz, they
They
got
haven't
about,
got a marquee man yet.
they got about 1.5 sitting there for a marquee man, and they're trying to find a body to attach it to.
What are they paying $750 each for them two? Are they?
No, they're not. They need one of them.
They can't get
only.
one,
But look, I got told today that they bet we won't bet in a coffee shop, but I don't know if it's true.
Ooh, that's some mail.
They won't. I can't verify that, is what I'll say. But I have.
there is a
I have
rumour.
tried-
There is a rumour
I've
that
had.
Wayne has met with them.
I've had people see it,
Speculation.
but I rang the coffee shop and he won't ring me back.
Oh, that's unusual.